if I start squeezing here, like that's kind of like it's like too much and in the wrong spot.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I go it's like it's
Mm.
it's quite, in a way, there's more sound generating through there's a tiny bit more squeeze, but it's also just more really clean resonance, the result of the chords connecting in a like more like seamless way.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that you're trying to squeeze in a way that's a bit more like it's within a smaller, narrower margin. So the
Yeah.
problem with talking about squeeze is when we start off, people hear like squeeze more, and they completely like do overdo it. They'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta squeeze more. And it's like, they don't understand that it's about a lot of the time it's about nuance and proportion, and it's
Yeah.
about like the too much and too little is like way too much and way too little, and it's like trying to get people to realize like actually like there's probably a lot more difference in smaller margins than people realize,
Mm-hmm.
and try to get people used to these margins that are more that are narrower, and getting them to appreciate like, oh, actually I have to really pay attention to feel smaller differences than I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of getting better as a singer is really just starting to notice smaller differences, and and valuing them more, and like realizing like, okay, wow. So like I thought I was gonna. It's basically like you've been riding a bike with stabilizers your whole life, and someone takes the stabilizers off, and they're like, oh, actually, like I actually can't really ride a bike. I just fall off. I've got to like learn to
Mm-hmm.
balance like on this, without the help, basically. All that extra
Mm-hmm.
muscular is like they're like kind of like makes everything stiff and stable, but it also makes it sound worse. So
Mm-hmm.
you know the challenge generally is trying to get people away from making singing like feel stable, and prioritizing like the sound more, which in the short term, and as we're learning, sacrifices some of that stability and predictability for a better
Mm-hmm.
sound. But the sound takes time to cultivate.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of, in the short term, let go of feeling like the voice is stable, work within these narrow margins, and then over time that becomes our new set of boundaries, and that restabilizes into a spot that's even more controlled.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to go backwards a little way to go forwards a lot of the time, which is one of the big
Yeah.
challenges of getting better. Because I was struggling, I knew that I was not very good at some point. The hardest people
Uh-huh.
is people that are pretty good, and they're very good at very specific things, can be some that
Yeah.
for them it's really hard to improve, because essentially they go to a coach, and the coach, even if it's the right coach, will make them feel like they're singing worse initially in some certain ways. They might make sound that kind of feels better, but their
Yeah.
voice will become less stable, and that lack of stability will really like make them terrified. And so
Yeah.
and trying to get that across isn't always easy, because the way you really understand it is if you go through a journey where you sacrifice some of that stability for like 3 months, and you chip away at it, and on the other end of it, but you have to give it enough time and
Yeah.
patience. Whereas if you stick with what you're doing, it will be more stable, but you're not going to get better. So trying to like help people navigate and negotiate this endless kind of negotiation with time and improvement, and long-term gain versus short-term gain, you could call it, or stability right now for stability in the future, realizing that there has to be sacrifices made today for that future to be better, is one of the harder
Yeah.
things to get across as a coach. And there's very little talk about it online. Like, you won't find a YouTube video where someone's talking about these kind of short-term problems that you're going to face when you try and improve as a singer, in order to
Mm-hmm.
make long-term gains, or at least it's very rare. You'll hear 1,000 tips and tricks, but you're not going to hear some of the downsides of getting better as a singer. And there are many downsides, frankly, of getting better as a singer.
Yeah.
But in the long term, you will thank yourself for making that commitment. Just like if you give up smoking, I always say to people, giving up smoking is
Uh-huh.
a bad idea. If your only priority is feeling good right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas if you prioritize the longer term benefits, which is your health, survival, and feeling like you don't have to rely on this substance to feel sane,
Mm-hmm.
in the longer term, it's better to give up. But right now, it's not a good idea to give up. Really, you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
suffer right now, and it's not going to be fun. And there is a certain amount of that with everything that you've learned, and then you're trying to relearn or get better at. Is you have to be able to like realize that you're going to take a hit in the short term, and that's really challenging for people that are pretty good. And it's a lot less challenging for people that are learning from scratch and have more of a blank slate to like getting better. So in that way, like both of us are kind of privileged because we didn't have to deal with that because we already knew that we sucked, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. No. Yeah.